Okay.
Jell-O was made in Leroy in 1897. That means Jell-O has been in 3 different centuries. Wow! It was invented by a carpenter. Huh? His name was Pearl. Oh, you gotta be kidding. As Jack Webb used to say, no, these are the facts. In 1897, Pearl Bixby Waite was building houses in Leroy. He was a very good carpenter. People are still living in the houses, but times were different. Carpenters only worked in the summertime, so Mr. Waite was packaging herbal teas and cough medicines during the winter to supplement his income. This gave him plenty of time to do what he liked to do best, get in the kitchen and dabble. Oh, he had visions of coming up with something to give him a steady income. Now, what his vision was, we have no idea. Truth be told, he didn't either. However, eventually he came up with something wonderful, a dried, fruit-flavored gelatin. And his wife, May, named it Jell-O. And he is ecstatic. This is it. We're going to be rich. Well, there was a small problem. He could not sell the Jell-O. That would be a problem on your way to getting rich, wouldn't it? Mm-hmm. He went to the grocers and they wouldn't stock it. He went door to door and very few of the housewives were interested. He had the recipe for 2 years when along came Orator Woodward. Mr. Woodward has a very successful patent medicine business in Leroy. And when he sees the Jell-O and he tastes the Jell-O, he is determined he will have that recipe. He knew Mr. Waite wanted to buy a house. He offered him the full price of the house in exchange for the Jell-O recipe, $450.
Oh my gosh.
Now Mr. Woodward has the recipe. He moves the operation to his factory on North Street and he starts making Jell-O. And he can't sell it either.
Oh no.
One day in the factory he was walking through with his workman Sam Nyko, and he turned to Sam and he said, Sam, for $35 you can have the whole Jell-O thing. And Sam looked at him and he said, but Order, I don't want it. And Mr. Woodward still has all this Jell-O. Now he's got a problem. Well, the more he thought about it, he finally said to himself, you know what the problem is? People don't know what Jell-O is. So he hired young gentlemen. He dressed them up nicely, furnished them with a wagon and a horse full of Jell-O. The wagon was full of Jell-O, not the horse. And he instructed them, you go out to every village, town, and city, and you hand the housewife a box of Jell-O or a recipe leaflet. Then you go to the merchant and say, you better stock this, these women are going to want it. And want it they did. In just 7 years, in 1907, Mr. Woodward's sales topped $1 million.
In 1907.
That was 10 million boxes of Jell-O.
Wow.
Do you know what his contemporary said? Well, you heard about Orter, didn't you? You know he's lost his mind. Well, he keeps giving his stuff away. It was out of the ordinary. People weren't doing such a thing, and they had no idea what he was doing. If he hadn't given it away, we probably never would have had Jell-O. But besides that, now we get samples of everything, don't we? Mm-hmm. Orter proved it really does work. In 1925, Jell-O and Posta merged to become the first 2 companies of General Foods. At that point, Mr. Woodward's little Jell-O thing he couldn't sell for $35, it was only worth $66 million.
Wow.
Then in the 1970s, Kraft acquired Jell-O, and that's why Kraft is Jell-O's parent company today. Jell-O was made in Leroy until 1964. In 1964, the main manufacturing part moved to Dover, Delaware, and the printing part to Saratoga Springs, New York. Well, it caused quite a to-do, you know. Whole families were working there, and when you split the factory, whose job do you go to? Mm-hmm. So it was pretty tense around here for a while. Up to the time that Jell-O was invented, dry gelatin had already been invented by Peter Cooper and Charles Knox, but neither one of them had any flavor. A gelatin dessert that had flavor was a consistency of jelly, and it was called a jelly. So we presume that's where May got the idea for the name Jell-O. Now behind you on the yellow, don't jump up, we have this marvelous recipe from 1877 telling us how we would have made a flavored calf's foot jelly. Well, you only need 4 calves' feet and 2 days to do it. Ordinary people didn't have time to spend 2 days making a dessert, so the wealthy with servants had it. I was so surprised to find out in the 1800s to serve a flavored gelatin dessert was a sign of prestige.
Really?
And this recipe certainly wasn't much. It was opaque in color and only flavored with sugar, cinnamon, cloves, lemon juice, and some sherry. Doesn't it just sound ghastly? But you know, if ordinary people couldn't have it, the wealthy thought it was absolutely divine. It always works like that. Now, contrary to popular belief, Jell-O is not made with horse's hoofs.
Okay.
Now, the horse's hoof story's been kicking around because the first man to dry gelatin was Peter Cooper, and of all things, he had a glue factory. Mr. Cooper did package his gelatin for home use. We have a box of Cooper's gelatin in our archives. Right on the box it says, "Follow directions carefully, or you will have glue."
Oh.
This will never ever happen with Jell-O. Jell-O is made with the connective tissue of cattle and swine, and none of the dreaded 3 H's. No hoofs, no hides, no horns. Hallelujah. When you go around, I do want you to enjoy the paintings on the side walls. In the 1920s, they would commission artists to do paintings for the Jell-O ads. Then they could be reproduced in color in the magazines, cookbooks, and package inserts. And we are so fortunate we have 17 of the original oil paintings on display.
Wow.
In the far, far back, we have a DVD. 9 years ago, Bill Cosby came right here to celebrate his 30th year as the Jell-O spokesperson. Oh, we had a grand time. In between here and there, there's all kinds of things I want you to see. At one time, Jell-O was shipped in wooden boxes. The grocer would take out the 3 dozen packages of Jell-O and then sell these boxes for a whole 25 cents. I want you to see what people did with the boxes. There's a flipbook of different artists and eras, the cookbooks, the molds, the Canadian display, the Sebastian figures, the giraffe. Giraffe? Well, a number of years ago, the circus came to Leroy and the giraffe dropped dead. Bill Shag was living here at the time. He was a taxidermist. He was quite excited. He'd never worked with a giraffe before. We don't have many giraffes in Western New York, you know. So they gave him the giraffe. He mounted the head. It was in his shop until San Pontillo opened a pizza shop, and the giraffe became an uptown giraffe. Well, now Sam has closed the shop, and what is he going to do? When Lynn, our directress, heard about it, she called him up and said, "You know, years ago, Sam, Jell-O advertised using animals, and one of them was a giraffe. May we offer your giraffe a home?" Well, he must have said yes, because 2 days later she was driving down Main Street with a giraffe in her truck. And now we have our very own giraffe. Isn't that exciting? Now, when you finish in this room, I want you to go through the gift shop. At the very far, far end, you're going to see a door that has 3 signs on it. Would you please go downstairs there to our transportation museum? We have an ox cart that held a family's whole belongings when they moved. There's sleighs, carriages, and a 1908 Cadillac, and I think you'll enjoy seeing all of those things.
Yes.
I do hope you will make yourselves at home, have a good time, and that I have jiggled your interest in Jell-O.
Yes, you
If you
have.
have any questions, I will try to answer them for you.
Ruth, you're a peach.
Thank you.
Say hi to Texas, Ruth.
Pardon?
Say hi to Texas.
Hi, Texas. We're so glad you sent some emissaries up.